kind of kicked things off here with the Move and Nebraska Startup Academy. So excited to provide an update on what we've been doing in the last year and a half, and we kind of laid out a vision last January. So I'll start on the Move side of things. Just wanted to provide a quick overview of Move Venture Capital. So Move is a pre-seed and seed venture fund, raising 8 to 12, call it $10 million fund that we will invest into 65 and 75 Nebraska and Midwest-based startups over the next, or over a 3 to 4 year investment period. We are an industry agnostic fund, so we will look across kind of any vertical that people are building in, as long as we understand the scalability and how big it can get. It tends to skew technology-based, given all of that kind of things there. The initial check size, we're writing 50, 100K checks, and then the ability to follow on, so about half of the fund will go into these first 65 to 75 companies. We'll follow them, we'll help guide them to key milestones, and as they continue to raise, we'll follow on up to potentially 250,000 into 10, maybe 15 of the kind of top startups. So that was a high level kind of structure of what we're doing. When we're talking pre-seed and seed, we like to use this graph just to kind of understand where Move lays in the field. So across the x-axis at the bottom, we're talking 50 to maybe up to $2 million round that Move would come in that 50 to 100K check size. And we're playing kind of in a similar space of where you've maybe heard of friends and family round or accelerators or things like that, kind of some of the angel investors in the space. So Move really is early stage. Of some of the investments we've made, we've done a couple that are at the idea stage that we've paired them with some development team to get things launched. Others are a little bit further along. Our kind of sweet spot is product built, early customers or letters of intent. It's kind of where we like to play. So what the last 18 months has kind of looked like, we've been connected with over 1,600 founders from across the Midwest. And then I just like to highlight kind of the funnel of what this looks like. So we start with the 1,600 connections. We've taken about 450, give or take here, we're a little bit over that now. First calls, get to know the founder, get to know what they're building, and then kind of decide what next steps are, if the timing's right to continue forward, or if we'll just continue to follow the updates. So you can already see just it's cut and forth right off the bat, essentially who we'll even kind of talk to right out of the gate. Of those 450, about half of them make it to a second call where we'll do a little bit more of a technical deep dive, or we'll look into some of the regulatory pieces, or just understand kind of the defensibility in the space that they're building in. From there, we kind of do a fourth again of those second calls of who actually gets to present in front of the Move Investment Committee. So members of my team here, John Grange, Manny Cavedo, and then we have 3 other members of our investment committee from various spaces to provide expertise on moving forward with an investment. And then to date, we've made 20 investments. One more will be finalized Friday, so we had 21 on Friday. And in the last 18 months, have deployed $1.4 million of capital into primarily Nebraska-based startups. So of those 20, 17 of them are based in Nebraska. One of them is Nebraska founders, rate grads that have left for some projects, but they're still very active here. And only 2 of the 20 have no real strong ties with it, other than building in the Midwest with some potential to bring customers to Nebraska. So always like to just put up some of the logos. So here's the 20 companies that we've made investments in. At the bottom here, I want to include a link to our portfolio page, move.ne.vc/portfolio, so you can kind of click around. Hopefully some of these logos you've seen. A lot of these startups and founders are active on social channels. So one of the things I know that'll be an ask, but if you could, find some, take some time, find these on social channels, interact with them on LinkedIn, Twitter, wherever they're kind of active. I think that's always really helpful for founders to putting out content, getting out the word. So really, really excited about the 20, soon to be 21 portfolio founders that we have. One other thing I wanted to point out is that by no means are we doing this alone. So some of the pieces that we had when we launched Move as a vision was to really help connect our founders with investors across the country. And so we felt pretty good about playing with a lot of the key stakeholders here, Invest Nebraska, of course, Nelnet, Nebraska Angels, In Motion, programs that have been around and have made investments, but also co-investing with some really incredible funds like Red One out of Ohio, Rise of the Rest, Y Combinator and Techstars have had multiple founders through both of these programs. So just really excited about the work across the, not just the state, but being able to connect founders here with resources outside the state to be able to scale. So that's the Move side, that is the investment side, that is the for-profit initiative that I run. In parallel with Move, we wanted to launch a nonprofit. This is called the Nebraska Startup Academy. And a big reason for this was if we're going to start putting millions of dollars, 1.4 million, to date, hopefully more, as we continue through this cycle. You saw the numbers. We invest in a fraction of who we meet. And by no means do we think that, we like to think that we have a pretty good mechanism to analyze some of these, but from a pure statistical perspective, the chances of us missing one of the great startups in Nebraska is pretty big when you have 1,600 and you narrow it down to 20. And so how do we make sure we keep that community engaged, we make sure that we provide resources, support, connect different pockets of not just Omaha, but connect pockets of Omaha with people that are building in Kearney or Grand Island or Norfolk, these other great places where innovation is happening. And so the Nebraska Startup Academy is a nonprofit that we really built with a mission to lower the barrier to entry to entrepreneurship and then educate and connect entrepreneurs, investors, corporations, community in a common way. So we have like 4 main things that I wanted to just touch on. First of all, our online platform. We launched an MVP version of this about 10 months ago. We have 200 founders online, and it's essentially a Slack meets Reddit. Right now, it's just kind of some founders interacting, posting events. We have a central curriculum with about 25 modules on there that are just kind of some guardrails to help founders know where to get started if they haven't got started. But it's an asynchronous approach that allows founders to drop in, consume the content that they need, and then get back to building without having to sign over hours or days or weeks of time to get the content and sit through it. We're in 25 cities, so founders are in 25 cities. We've actually started to get a lot of great inbound from the surrounding areas. So we also have founders from 7 surrounding states that are members of this community to date. Like I said, we're about 10 months into this. Really, really excited. We'll be able to, we just put out our first full-time hire for a director of entrepreneurship. We'll be bringing them on in the next 2 to 3 weeks to really scale this thing to the thing we want it to be, where we can have a lot more community involvement, different groups that are here, different groups that are supporting on campuses across the state, and allow to shine lights on the people that are doing great things for entrepreneurship and make sure that people know where these resources are. A couple of things that I'll just point out, if you're already on the platform, some things that are coming by the end of the year. We will have financial and operational health checks, which will allow you to do a quick assessment and then understand next steps to take. We're also in the process of building out 2 AI tracks, a pretty deep dive intensive if you're high tech and want to take and approach some of the AI approach techniques into your startup, as well as a kind of a first step of how do you just automate some things using AI if maybe the technical side of things isn't really your specialty, but you want to get your foot in the door. Also, wanted to point out some strategic partnerships. Super excited about bringing the Combine online. So the Combine is an ag incubator down in Lincoln run by Josh Mars through Invest Nebraska. And what they're doing is they're building out their curriculum on the online Startup Academy platform, so they can live amongst the bigger picture of the 200 founders. And so what this allows the Combine to do is have a private space to manage their online connections as they have founders from across the state in this private subset of their own curriculum. But where the curriculum is, where there's overlap, they're amongst a bigger pool. And so we'll look to bring forward a lot more partnerships in this way. Husker Venture Fund does a lot of their due diligence on the Academy platform today. The Race School, Computer Science and Engineering School down in Lincoln is also in the process of building out their curriculum online for their middle years of their college. So we also, 2025, have plans to have a tribal wing where we'll actually expand and have specific reach into several tribal communities around the state of Nebraska to, again, lower the barrier to entry to entrepreneurship, and 3 other partnerships that we're strategically kind of working through right now that hopefully we'll be able to announce by the end of the year. Other piece that I wanted to touch on here is our corporate pitch days. So this was one of the initial initiatives along with the VC office hours that we do after here. So the idea for corporate pitch days was, how can we leverage our network of corporate executives with my team's background to get startups in front of decision makers at large corporations quicker. Anyone building a startup knows how hard it is to find the right person if you're selling B2B. And so we've hosted 29 pitch days so far, starting kind of middle of last year. And essentially what this is we find the corporations, we see if they have an interest in supporting innovation and potentially piloting. So we pitch the whole thing to the executive team as, we're looking for pilots for early customers for these startups. Worst case scenario, we would love for you to use your expertise to provide feedback in the industry that these startups are building in. And so we get about 6 to 8 members of the C-suite of large corporations here, Valmont, Sequence, Green Plains, Warner. I mean, those are the types of companies that we're working with. And just in those first 29, we're pretty pumped that the proof of concept that shortened the space, within Mobile, we run the point of contact. So within 2 weeks, we need to know, is there an outcome from this day? Who was in the room? You know, it's really easy to help the startup by saying, hey, CEO of Warner or CTO of Warner said you, project manager, are in charge of making sure this startup gets onboarded in the next 2 weeks, and things can move pretty quickly. And so we've already seen over $200,000 in paid pilots and contracts to Nebraska-based startups in the last 18 months. So we're really, really pumped about that. And our goal here is to expand it even further. So we want to get to the point in the next 3 to 4 years where we have one of these happening each week. I'll run through this very, very fast. VC Office Hours, again, one of the events that we do after Million Cups every single week. Startup Stand-Up is another really cool thing on the platform. It's an accountability thing where essentially, as teams scale, when you have 10, 15 members of your startup, stand-ups kind of naturally happen in an agile type setting that a lot of startups feel. But when you're working with a team of 1 or 2, it can be extremely lonely. The accountability piece isn't there. And so we have an online stand-up that we host. Any startup that wants to drop in, just live on the platform for 30 minutes, quick updates on what you're doing, roadblocks, and we can work together to do it. As part of the new role that we're hiring for, we'll have these happening every single day, and then other kinds of content. Last thing I wanted to mention that we're really, really excited about is the Grove. It's a new kind of project that we're bringing online here. It is going to be an incubator, kind of co-working space in the Miller Commons area for startups that have hit specific milestones. So we'll have more formal press conference announcement hearing here first, but we're really, really excited about what this is going to allow us to do. And so essentially what the Grove is going to be is just an innovative workspace / incubator, like I mentioned, for a very selected, maybe 12 to 20 startups that will kind of work in a cohort base, sign up for 6, 12-month kind of sessions with milestones that they need to hit in order to maintain free access to space, free access to additional resources that we'll bring in, free access to a community that will allow some things like the skill swaps that we do online to happen in person, but essentially creating a hybrid approach. How do we bring the academy online into real life? And then of course we'll open this up to community events and host a lot of things there. So wouldn't be here without a lot of the affiliates. Same as like Justin likes to point out all of the different groups that are awesome to collaborate with here. So thanks for doing that. And with that, I went over, but try to go fast. So any questions that we have?
Thank you, Charlie. That is so cool. All the work that you're doing, seriously, like Nebraska startup community is so grateful and happy. We're opening it up for Q&A, so if you have questions, please raise your hand. We'll just ask that, Charlie, if you don't mind, just repeating it, or I can fumble the mic around too, whatever.
I can repeat.
Okay.
Motivated you to work in Nebraska, and tell us about your
Jeff, what motivated me to do this for Nebraska and then my team? I had worked with my team, Manny Cabedo and John Grange, serial entrepreneurs that built many things here, and then had an opportunity to go work for Jason Papanis out in the Bay Area at his venture fund. He's a top 10 kind of angel investor out in the Bay Area, and I was able to build a program for him, top of funnel, for his accelerator that rivals like a Y Combinator, Techstars kind of funnel. One of the things I started noticing as I built this 12-week program, ran the first 4 cohorts. We had about 800 startups that were in these first 4 cohorts from 40 countries. And a trend we started to see as we started cycling through was the Midwest was really well represented, way more than we kind of anticipated. And as I started to dig into it a little bit more, there just weren't a lot of resources, there weren't a lot of capital. And Manny and John building and exiting many successful startups and the struggles that they had and talking to founders here, we saw an opportunity to support and make some money doing it.
Yeah, first of all, I'd just like to thank you for doing this. This is like exactly what we need, just bringing people together. My question though is about you said you're giving out like $1.5 million. Where do people spend that on usually? Like, where's that money going?
Yeah, that's a great question. So he asked, of the 1.5 million, what are they spending their money on? And a lot of the founders, they're early enough that, I mean, some of it is as simple as like, you need to spend money on GPUs to train models faster. Others need just access to bring on like a dev shop if they're not a technical hire. A lot of it is product development more than anything. I would say that's probably 75% of it. Some of it goes to marketing, some of it goes to simple operations. We always encourage founders like, hey, you have to be able to eat, you have to take care of your kids and these types of things. But of course, in the early days, capital's kind of sparse, so a lot of it goes to product and getting key milestones. That's the other piece is we help set key milestones to make sure they can hit in order to fundraise next so that they can kind of expand a bit further.
How do you? Go ahead.
I want you to ask that. So Nebraska Startup Academy, for you guys, so you're investing, but at the same time, like when these startups reach out to you, so you invest, but you also, I guess, mentor, and if they need other things, you also help them with, let's say, connection design, or if they need a technology something, or like there's so many people you are connected with, you can bring other people together, or bring 2 startups together, like, hey, this startup can help this startup. So you guys do that too, I believe.
Yeah, he was asking on the move side of things, we do the pure investment, but on the Startup Academy side, it's more about mentorship, connection, these types of things. One of the pieces that we do is called a skill swap on the platform, and it's one of my favorite things that I've seen be extremely successful. But essentially, what we think about it as a skill swap is a lot of startups want to support other startups. They don't have a lot of capital to pay for things. So someone may post that, hey, expert marketer, but I really need some vetting help on a dev shop. If they're a technical person that can sit on an hour dev shop interview, for the next 3 weeks, in exchange, I'll help improve your SEO on your website by X amount. So different connections like that is absolutely kind of what we'd love to continue to do with the Academy.
With this movement and all this effort, what are some of the hardest lessons learned?
Some of the hardest lessons learned. Man, I think one of them is just, there's a lot of great tensions and things happening in the state and getting people pulling in the same direction, realizing that we're here to support anything that's already happening. We never want to recreate anything, and would rather point people to the different places where someone's already being successful than trying to take it or own it. And just kind of the overall education on startup investing. Nebraska and the Midwest tends to be a pretty risk-averse state and region, and investing in startups is not that. And so just kind of those hurdles and roadblocks that we have to kind of navigate and try and educate.
Would you see that as cultural or as more educational? Or kind of a balance?
Both. I think it's both cultural and educational. I think there's a culture, but there's also, the work ethic that is cultural here, is exactly what a startup needs to succeed. And I just think we need to see more wins to make sure that we can.
Yeah.
Charlie, if I could add to that on the response, I think there's also sort of a responsibility of the community, the approach to this, because we've had some real heroes along the way. I look at Scott Henderson over there and the way he's helped up our startup community for the last several years. It's been awesome. Proven Ventures, and we go around the room and they're just wonderful people here. But when you start to move into what I'll call the self-governed environment. This is an open environment where we're here to build each other up. It's hardly worth it on some days, right? But if we really care for each other, it makes a lot of sense. In the fall, we're going to be announcing an academy for tribal communities. That's going to be tough, but we've got to do it. And what we need is support from everyone in the room. We're going to have a Spanish language option next winter. That's going to be tough, but we need that inclusion because this is not just Nebraska. Nebraska benefits, but the people all over the country that are watching what we're doing. And something new is happening, including, for example, access to the new innovation districts, new innovation hubs. Those are vital, but we have to all sort of self-govern and self-support. So I'll just leave that. It's not easy, but and you never do it alone. But it's working, and we need to nourish it.
What kind of routine do you find necessary to make sure that you start and finish?
I mean, the routine to start, I mean, the biggest thing is just consistency. The number one thing that we talked about with BC Office Hours was like, whatever this grows into, it just needs to happen every week. People, if they're coming in from Cook or Grand Island, need to know we'll be here, and then the conversations will happen. And so part of it is just setting these key milestones when you start, understanding what you're going to, but also being open to and flexible to change paths or pivot along the way or slight deviations in order to hit goals. But understanding what the kind of the end goal of what you're trying to solve is key to getting there.
Money comes from your redevelopment. How do you make money out of it?
Yeah. So where's the money come from, and how do you make money out of this? So great question. So on the move side of things, we raise money from high net worth individuals. We raise money from corporations, endowments, people that are looking to make money. So we make money on the move side of things. The way that a venture fund works is we invest the money over a 4 to 5 year period. We hold for 6, 7, 8, up to 10, and look for opportunities to exit. Maybe that's an acquisition. Maybe ultimately someone goes public. Typically here in the Midwest, it's acquisition. And then the way that the move, my partners make money on that is we have to first return capital to our investors. They get every dollar that they gave us, they get it back. Every dollar on top of that gets split at the ratio at which they invested. The investors, the LPs, the limited partners, make 80% of all capital over the threshold. Move makes 20% of all capital over the threshold. On the Startup Academy side, it's a lot of private donations from some great people in the room that has helped get us off the ground, as well as federal grants that we're really working on workforce development. Startups are a huge part of workforce development, so there's grant opportunities available. We've had some technical assistance from the state of Nebraska through Invest Nebraska that's been really helpful. And then corporation and corporate sponsorships. We officially have our 501c3 status, which is a process, but now that we have it, we can go and start soliciting funds in other ways as well.
Just a heads up, we'll keep things going here for another 5 minutes or so, 10 minutes. So we're gonna go a little over today, just as a forewarning. I saw a couple questions over here. While I'm on the mic though, I did have a question that I wanted to sneak in, and that was, you mentioned the Academy, a lot of learnings to even get that to the point where you're launching it. I'd imagine that's very much like a founder rolling out a product. So if you don't mind, I'd love to kind of pick your brain on the learnings from that. What do you think so far has gone super, super well? And if you could rewind time, what are some things that you maybe would have done differently with the kind of rollout and scaling of the platform itself?
Yeah, that's a great question. So both the Academy and Move feel like startups at the same time. So we're kind of, if I had to change anything in hindsight, it's like, oh yeah, we can start 2 startups at the same time. That's a good idea. Maybe thought through if we wanted to stagger that a little bit, but the part that's hard there too is I honestly don't know if I would actually change that, because I think Move is successful because of the Academy. Other funds in the area will be successful because of the Academy. The Academy is successful because people want capital, and we're not oblivious to that. People aren't super interested in just coming and chatting if there's not something there at the end. So the other part on building it out and some of the key learnings, a lot of what I built for Jason out west is very applicable here. And so like, having built that out for a number of years and kind of evolving it as we went, played a huge role in kind of understanding it. But one of the big things we did was we wanted to do the VC office hours so that we could hear directly from founders where the majority of the questions were coming. Our content curriculum, 2-3 years from now will span, I think I have an idea, through like, I do have an idea, all the way through like, how do I exit and what does that mean? And have every single piece. But we didn't want to start with 300 modules because no one can consume that. We didn't want to start with content that the most active people weren't going to use. And so part of it was understanding where our end customer was at today. And then we will build with them as they grow. And then we'll fill in gaps behind them for people that are even sooner than kind of where we're at today.
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry, just a quick add. I think one of the other insights is that we found a significant divide between the startup community and founders and corporations, large companies, even large to mid-sized companies. First and foremost, weren't buying products from entrepreneurs, and that's one of the reasons the pitch competitions have been so vital. It's as much about educating executives about products and services that are available in their hometown, as well as their support. What's interesting is at the end of the day, they actually need and want that information. So I advise any of you who have touches in corporate or large companies to just take a few moments and educate them to what's going on, because it's quite meaningful for them. And the best example is 80% of the investors in the Move Fund are corporate executives who've been educated through the process. They realize how important it is, and they write the check personally. And that's a pretty big deal. But we've got to close that divide for the ecosystem to prosper.
Thanks, man.
Basic question. The Nebraska Startup Academy has, can I sign up and get resources? If so, how do I do that? I can go to your website and find a way to actually sign up for it.
So if you go to go.nastartupacademy.org or scan the QR code, those things work. We prioritize getting founders on as soon as possible. So this gets you through like a type form. It just allows us to make sure you're real. A lot of what we need to do is a lot of the grants and things that we have, we just need to document who's using the resources so that we can continue to provide them free of cost for founders. Founders, we try to get through and find every founder that's applied and get them on every week or two. And then other community members, pieces of what we're going to be doing is expanding out to other resource community members. So if you're active there, by all means sign up, and we're looking to, by the end of 2024, start bringing on some strategics similar to like what we've done with the Combine. We're kind of testing it out with the Combine and the venture fund as a way to figure out where are the bumps, how do we bring someone on, how do we make sure they're familiar with the platform, things like that. But yeah, totally free. Founders sign up today. Community members will get you on as soon as we can. And a lot of the information, when we, like for instance, the Grove, when we start taking applications for that, we have kind of a beta group that will start off maybe as soon as next week. But we have we'll have an application